Hey everyone, I hope you're all staying healthy and well. I have noticed in the last few weeks that during this horrible COVID-19 situation, stuff is starting to happen with the luxury and fashion markets. There's a lot of heavy discounting going on brands that you would not expect to see discounts, but also on things like Chanel classic flaps on the second-hand market. So I thought it was worth discussing, talking about the potential long-term effects of all this. And this video is not going to be depressing, by the way, so don't worry about that. There's no depressing COVID-19 stuff going on. I want this to be thought-provoking, and maybe even if you're in a position to and there's been an item that you've always wanted to have and enjoy, now might be a good time for you to be able to get it for a very good bargain. Hey everyone knows this, what's going on right now. And I'm sorry, by the way, if in most of my videos at the moment I give mention to it, but it's such a big thing that it's really hard not to. So I'm going to talk about the effects of COVID-19 on the luxury and fashion industry and kind of shopping industry in general, because it's quite interesting, the changes that I'm noticing. But it's also quite, I guess, worrying in the longer term, depending on how long this goes on for. But crucially, right now, if there are items that any of you watching have ever desired to own but have never wanted to pay full price for, there are some just incredible sales going on around the place, even on things like this. The whole COVID-19 thing kicked in, was it in January? I think it was, and then it kind of made its way, or kind of really ramped up in Europe in March. And at the end of March, on the 23rd, things in the UK got shut down, including shops, clinics, beauticians, everything except for supermarkets. And there was a huge kind of move, more than I've ever really noticed before, to moving things online. And the things that really started to change that I noticed first off were the availability of luxury items. Chanel, for example, they don't sell online, but Dior do. And I took a look on the Dior website, because here's an interesting thing. Well, I think it's quite interesting. The week or two, I think it was 2 weeks before the lockdown in the UK, the COVID-19 situation was really picking up pace. And I'd been into Harrods and I was talking to some of the guys that work in there, and it was in relation to the spring-summer collection, which all should be out now, but it's not. Now, even at the time, and I'm talking now, probably a month ago, there were items in that collection. So with these collections, some of you will be familiar, but they don't tend to launch every single piece out of the collection all at once. It's kind of sort of drip-fed through until the next collection comes out, which will be, I don't even know, pre-fall or something. The information at the time from Dior Paris was that there was a large shipment of items that were due to be going out, but none of them were going out because of the whole COVID-19 situation. So that was a month ago. If you fast forward now a month, those items still haven't been released. Certainly not in London anyway. And I'm going to put a quick example here. This is just kind of some ready-to-wear that is in that collection. And so far, this hasn't come out yet. Now, a month ago, this is what I was waiting for, because I really wanted to have a look at this. But it wasn't here a month ago, and it's not here now. The items on the Dior website, a lot of the kind of classic things are still there, kind of like Lady Dior's in black and things like that, but most of the newer things aren't even on there yet. That's the kind of first thing that I'm thinking is, depending on how long this goes on for, what is it going to mean for availability? Louis Vuitton is another really good example. The amount of things that are currently available to buy on their website, and I'm speaking from the UK, every time I go on there, it's just dwindling. So it does seem to be that people are still buying, but they've maybe been moved to buy online as opposed to going in store because the stores are closed. And I wonder what's going to happen in terms of stock, whether we will get to a point where there simply is no stock because the manufacturing has had to cease. So that's kind of the first thing, and there's also this real big drive. I don't know how many of you noticed, but there's a real big thing going on at the moment online where so many retailers, even high-end luxury brands, are doing insane sales at the moment. I mean, Louisa Via Roma, that you've known about, I've spoken about before. Just to show you a couple of things that I've bought on there recently with the 25% off, although that's now jumped up to 30% off. First of all, this is like a jacket. I got that on there. I also bought these, which are Fendi boots that have been on my wish list since last September, and I never wanted to buy them because although I really liked them, I wanted to get a discount, and I bought these for 25% off. So that's the first thing. The second thing, oh my god, the pre-loved market has fallen through the floor. Chanel classic flaps. When I looked, so I always have my eye on the pre-loved market, and the reason why I have my eye on it is because when I buy items, I've said it a million times, sorry if it's boring, when I buy an item like this, for example, I, not always, but most of the time, I buy things with wanting them to be investment pieces so that if I ever need to get my money out of them, I can sell them and get near enough, if not a bit more than what I paid. So that for me is why I've always kind of got, I'm always just on Vestiaire Collective is typically what I use, and I'm always keeping an eye on what's for sale. Now bear in mind on Vestiaire Collective, as a seller, you get charged 30% seller fees all in. So the items on there tend to be a bit more expensive anyway. But what I do is I minus 30%, and that gives me kind of like the real price of what things are going for. Classic flaps, I'm going to show you jumbos actually in particular. So at the moment, the jumbo, if you buy it new, is around about £5,000. And when I was looking at these at Christmas, on Vestiaire Collective, they were tracking at between 4,000 and 5,000 depending on the condition of the bag. Some people, you do get it on there, some people want more for their item than it actually costs if you went to get it new, which I can understand if the item's really hard to get, but for classic flaps you can, they are easier to get. If you look at the prices now, they have dropped by £1,000, in some cases a bit more, and it struck me because when Corona really started to strike in the UK, I assumed that the luxury market was going to go up. And then I looked on Vestiaire Collective and I was like, oh my god, it's gone down. I really think right now is a buyer's market. And for anyone watching this video, I'm not trying to push anyone to buy anything because it's a delicate time. Some people have their jobs, other people don't. It's a really delicate time. What you do is up to you. I'm just kind of trying to put forward a balanced argument. But if you are in a position to do so, now is quite a good time to be able to buy your item at a very good discount. Just in the middle of filming this, I went onto Vestiaire Collective actually and had another look. So prices that are shown in red indicate that an item has been reduced since the seller listed it. So there's a few things that this has happened with, and with this in particular, if you take a look at this is a classic flap jumbo in pretty good condition actually, and it's £2,973. Now this bag new is 5,100. I've found that with the Chanel items there are fewer of them, a lot fewer of them for sale, but the ones there are very reasonably priced. I then went on to have a look at what's going on with Hermes, and particularly with the Constants, because I've always had my eye on that bag over the years, and so I kind of roughly know how much they tend to go for. These seem to have held their own. That said, everything here, there are quite a few things that have been reduced, but the things here, bear in mind, they haven't sold. So just, you know, the price someone puts it up for doesn't necessarily mean that's what someone's willing to pay. Dior, there's lots in red for Dior, lots of reductions made. Dior I tend to find doesn't do so well resale anyway, so I wasn't looking for big numbers, to be honest, but if you are looking for a Dior, again, now's a really good time. There's not so many very good quality ones that I could see when I looked, but there are definitely some that are worth going for. And then finally, I also thought that I would look at the Birkin. It looks like it's held its own as well. So this could be that the coronavirus, when it comes to availability, because don't forget, if the bags aren't available in the first place, and if, you know, people keep their jobs, which God willing they will, and this whole situation becomes more normal, maybe we will see a bit more confidence in the market with people spending, and maybe at that point, because people can't buy these bags anywhere else, they might end up buying them pre-loved. But definitely, I think if you're looking at Chanel is looking very well priced at the moment in the second-hand arena. Even if, let's say you put an offer to the seller, I think currently right now, there's a fairly high chance of them actually being willing to negotiate. And bear in mind, these prices have dropped and the seller's going to lose a further 30% on that. So that's what I'm saying. The other thing that I wanted to mention or wanted to talk about is, sorry, I've got a list, is in the longer term. No one knows how long this is going to go on for. And I keep thinking, I wonder where this is going to go. So let's say, for example, the fashion industry tends to work 2 years in advance of itself. From concept and design all the way through to like manufacturing, which maybe happens a little bit later on down the line. But right now, if you think about it, the factories that make things are all closed down. So what does that mean when we hit autumn winter of this year, or even spring summer of next year? Because those items, if they haven't already been ordered and bought by the retailers, they're in production, only production has stopped. So are we going to get to a point where, although it's great because the retailers are pushing online and they're doing discounts, are we going to get to a point where actually they cease trading because they don't have enough stock to sell? This is just my kind of thoughts on it. I've been really thinking about it for a long time, because at first when all this happened, and you still were having a lot of websites and retailers saying, don't worry everyone, like the stores are closed, but we're still open online. And the longer it goes on, I'm thinking, hang on a minute though, what's going to happen with stock? Because no one's making anything right now. So what's going to happen with stock? And it's a weird one. It will be really weird to see where things will go to from here. If you are on the lookout for things, now is a pretty good time to think about maybe purchasing those items. With things like the bags, I would say pre-loved, unless they're things like this, which is new but it's brands you can get discounted. And of course there is a bigger thing as well, because if availability online really drops, then the people that work doing those jobs in warehouses packaging up orders, and the couriers that go and deliver that rely on that will have a knock-on impact there as well. So I really hope it doesn't happen, but I question whether it will. Let me know what you think. I'd be really, really curious to know what you all think, and if you've got any kind of, particularly any of you who work in fashion and you're aware of what's going on with like logistics and stock and pipeline stuff. Anything you know would be so interesting to know about.